Let's crack open a beer and share some thoughts.
Give Dave a shout out. I'm getting a bit of lemon on that, on the flavour.
Little lemony, some citrus in there, maybe.
Dry.
Very dry on the finish. Some light spices on there, a little bit of sort of like floral spices on the end of it.
The nose didn't really give any of that away.
No, it's one of them that's quite deceiving, isn't it? It's, I wonder if it's because I'm finding this quite a lot lately, that when a beer's cold, the aroma's not there, and it's only as it begins to warm that more of the aroma seems to come out. Now, I don't know whether there's any science behind that.
Well, you get that with white wines. I mean, if you go to wine tasting, you'll get the white wine will still be opened and be allowed to breathe and release for a little while. You still wouldn't serve it ice cold.
Yeah.
You're doing it straight from the fridge. No reason why lager isn't the same. But, I mean, this is 4.4%.
Yep. What is it? What is it we're drinking here?
It's the Fourpure Brewing Co. Indy Lager, the 500ml can, which I picked up at the last London Brewers Market at Spitalfields.
Okay. And, is this a special edition, or is this now part of their core range?
I've got a feeling it's going to become part of their core range if it hasn't already.
Okay.
Partly because when I was flicking through Untapped earlier to have a look at it, didn't come that far down the list either.
Right.
It sort of sat within a lot of the ones that they do regularly.
So it's still fairly new.
Yeah.
And nice packaging as well. Indy Lager with a plane on it, which I'm going to take is that's from Indiana Jones, isn't it? That
well,
plane.
It looks like the plane that he sets off at the start when they then draw the little lines on the map.
Yes, yeah.
So it looks like one of those 1930s type planes, doesn't it?
Quite a nice little nod there. If that's the case.
Yeah, I quite like that. The can is nice actually. I do like that can. Very different to a lot of the other stuff as well. Fourpure, inspired by adventure, so I suppose it could well be. Brewed with the finest malts, classic German aroma hops, house lager yeast. Refreshing and easy drinking craft lager with a smooth and crisp finish.
I'm intrigued that maybe they've done it on purpose, I don't know, because it's in what is predominantly a white can. So that wouldn't look out of place next to Stella or Carlin on the supermarket shelf, would it?
No, and it'd be the same sort of size as well.
Yeah.
So no, it wouldn't look out of place. But I think it's quite striking that bit along the front. Everything's happening in that front bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
The whole design.
And did you say it was 4.4%? At 4.4%, they've gone for the lower end of the lager market as well.
I'm finding it really tasty though.
I
do like the dry finish.
It's incredibly drinkable.
Yeah.
So certainly, again, it's one of those on a hot summer's day you could easily sink a 4-pack of these.
Yeah, if those ended up in M&S, I could just see myself having those on a hot day.
Be very happy with one of those on the train, wouldn't you, on the way home?
Yeah, I could have sank about 4 days the time the
train
was on there. I could have done one of those last week before the show. That 2.5 hour marathon I had. In fact, some people have run the marathon quicker.
It was worth it though, mate. It was worth it.
It was worth it for the spoon show.
Absolutely. So, mate, what have you been up? You haven't really been up to much since then, have you? You've been off the old booze.
I've been off the booze. So, my last beer previous to this was the resin we had at Spoons last week. Because I had, for those who haven't realised, I had a keyhole surgery on my knee last Thursday, and you very kindly came and picked me up from the surgery in London. So I decided to have a few days off and a few days off the booze before and after. However, my dedication knows no bounds, so I've decided to break that by having some beers tonight while we record.
Well done, mate.
I know.
Absolutely well done.
I can't imagine anything worse than recording a beer-related podcast and not drinking beer.
It would be like doing the alcohol-free show again, wouldn't it?
Oh, God. Actually, no, I'd rather actually just not have the beer if that was the choice. What about you? What have you been up to?
Again, a fairly quiet week. It's for me, it feels like it's the calm before the storm of what's to come for me this week, because I'm heading up to to Manchester for the tail end of the Manchester Beer Week.
Yeah, you're going for the big finish, aren't you?
I am going for the big finish, yeah. So my plans are there's a Galway Bay takeover at Cafe Beer Moth on Thursday night. There's a Buxton takeover at the same place on Friday night with the 7 cask lines, and then I'm going to the Pilcrow Summer thing for 2 days as well to drink as much beer as I can get my hands on.
And presumably popping into a few other assorted venues.
I will be, yeah.
Around as well.
Yeah, I'm planning on finishing the weekend at Beer Nouveau, who are doing this homebrew expo at the end of the week as well.
Excellent.
So looking forward to that.
I mean, it has looked good. I've been looking at some of the stuff that's been going on since it started, the Manchester Beer Week. It looked like there've been some fantastic events already.
Over 100 events they've got this year, which is just fantastic.
But it looks like it started off good. It's not like they're all packed. They're not all going to be packed in at the end. Yeah, I'm a bit annoyed with Connor actually, because last year he said to me, "You've come on the wrong weekend. You should have come on the end weekend. That's when we did all the good things." So this year I booked the end weekend, and it looks like all the good stuff's at the beginning of the week. Well, I don't know. I mean, the Pilcrow event looks pretty good. Buxton 7 cask tap takeover doesn't look too shabby.
No, I'm not going to complain too loudly about that. I've got to say, but no, just I suppose just not even in preparation from that. I just had a couple of beers at the weekend, just from my my latest haul from Beer Central.
Oh, so did that get delivered recently then?
Yeah, this month's box turned up. So some of the highlights that were in there: the Magic Rock Cryo Baby.
What do you think of that?
I loved it. I put the word smashable in my check-in. I got loads of peach and mango and passion fruit from it with her, and I got a really bitter finish off of it as well.
Yeah, because Michelle and I did the fairly much that whole IPA series they've done recently, and we tagged on the last couple of cans of Human and Unhuman. And if you take those 2 out of it, so the other 4 or 5, like the telekinesis, psychokinesis, telepathy, that range of it, I thought the Cryo Baby was the standout.
Yeah, it's one of the best I've had.
Bags of flavour,
yeah,
lovely finish, and they had a lovely light carbonation all the way through as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was almost like a lager carbonation, but wasn't overly gassy. Slight haze, to be fair. But I thought it held it all really well together for 4.8.
Yeah, session IPA.
That was a good session beer, that one.
500ml can.
Yeah.
I poured that as I lit a barbecue at the weekend, and it took me about 3 goes on it before I was pouring my next one.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. We were massively impressed with that one.
Yeah. What else was good that I had at the weekend? This was an interesting one. This was a collab between Evil Twin and Omnipollo. Old-fashioned lemonade IPA. Okay. So it's basically an IPA with cloudy lemonade in it,
and
it was incredible. It was just stunning. It was my check-in says incredible stuff. It's lemonade. It's IPA. It's great. That's all I could say about it.
So you could taste both. You could still get the IPA qualities, but you could still get that cloudy.
You got the refreshingness of the lemonade, which gave you a really big lemony dry hit, and then you had this lovely bitter finish coming through from the IPA. It was just incredible stuff. Just really, really good.
I can picture in my mind's eye those particular set of flavours going. Because we often say about some of the IPAs about lemon quality, pithy, citrus.
Yeah. Yep.
So the fact that they've just gone, okay, fuck it, we're just going to put these 2 together, but it could have come out an awful mess.
And it's going to work.
Yeah, but it could have come out a mess.
It could have come out a mess, but I've got to say, Omnipollo seems to be able to do no wrong with the flavours that they seem to be able to impart into beer.
I would agree with that.
If they're involved in a brew and they say this beer is going to taste of this flavour, it will damn well taste of that flavour.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
So, and then just the only other one to mention was the Kingslayer from Buxton, which was I think maybe a couple of weeks too old by the time I got my hands on it, and that's nobody's fault but my own in terms of when
just the way you built up the box.
Yeah. It was a little bit resinous, it was a little bit sticky, but it was still had this big, bitter, juicy feel to it as well. And again, just incredible stuff from Buxton, like always.
Yeah, well, I think we've said it enough times, and I don't think we're the only ones saying it now. in the past, I might be saying it in the future. They just make solid and fantastic beers.
And bearing in mind, I'm off to the takeover on Friday night. I'm sure this isn't the last time you're going to hear me
saying the word Buxton.
saying the word Buxton in the next few weeks.
Well, no, we'll be looking forward to hearing back from your adventures in Manchester. So, like you say, a quiet build-up before Manchester probably isn't a bad thing anyway.
Just feel like I'm easing myself into it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm off to Cologne this weekend, so I'll be drinking a few beers. There is a beer festival about an hour away from where my brother lives in Cologne, which we may or may not go to. That will depend on how confident I am with crowds and standing around with my knee.
Yeah.
If not, there's plenty of places to enjoy Kolsch in Cologne, and apparently a craft beer bar has opened in Cologne recently as well.
Okay.
So I can drink craft in Cologne.
There you go.
So there we go.
Everything you could possibly
All the seeds.
Yes. So next week's show should be quite interesting.
There might be some beer adventures this time.
With us talking about our adventures. And I will just remind people that long-term listeners to the previous version of this podcast, that the last time I did 4 days in Manchester, I could barely talk on the Monday night recording.
That's true. One of us. Unfortunately, we've got a guest, which we'll say more at the end. But there's a guest next week. He may actually be holding the whole show together.
He might do. he might do. Yeah. So let's. Should we get some more thoughts on this beer, because we're almost finished with this one, and then we can jump into the news.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I think it is a really lovely lager. I mean, I don't think is this Fourpure's first lager. I mean, I don't recall, unless they've done a few one-offs.
Pils.
Yes, the Pils they've had as one of their core range for a while, haven't they? That's one of those.
First came in a small can and then appeared in a big can, didn't it?
Yes, and that appears in M&S as well, along with the Session IPA, doesn't it? But actual just something that just says lager.
An out lager, yeah.
I think it's really good. I mean, I tend to swerve lagers a lot of the time these days, and I know a lot of people have a lot of time for Pils and lagers. And a lot of people I listen to and read their stuff I have a lot of respect for that as well, and they say it. But for me, I tend to find that a lot of them are still just a bit ordinary at times. This one, if I picked up a 4-pack of this and, like say, a hot day barbecue, snuck on a train, they'd go.
Yeah, I agree actually, and some people might have picked up on one of the beers that I had in the last week. I was out on one of the hot nights last week, and went into a local pub that had 3 cask taps, 2 of which had glasses on them, so straight away you knew you weren't getting anything from those, and the third was Duca's IPA. So I opted for an ice cold Heineken that was poured through a iced tap on the outside and poured into a glass that had been frozen as well. So this it was ultimately cold and refreshing, but pretty much devoid of any flavour. But it did the job.
It did the job. I mean, to be honest, I'm partial to a pint of Heineken every now and again, but I don't need it to be that cold.
Not to the point where there's thick ice on the outside of the tap.
Yeah.
And then...
That must be a Heineken thing, because when I was at a bar in Ipswich recently, a couple of my mates went for Heineken. I was on Ghost Ship, shockingly.
Surprise.
Just surprised I was. And it was exactly the same thing. It was out of one of those ones which has the ice on the tap, and then there was a fridge that they went to get the glass. So this must be a Heineken Dick Tap. It's
got to be interesting. They had 2 Heineken pumps, both with the ice on the outside, and both of them had a temperature gauge on the outside on it as well to tell you how cold it was. And I opted for the one that was the coldest.
Why? What did you do that for?
Because it was hot and I wanted something cold to cool me down. But
like you say, it did the trick though.
It did the trick, but coming back to this, that's a really enjoyable lager. I think Fourpure have been very clever here. They've aimed the ABV at the lower end of the market.
Yeah.
The flavours are dialed down. There's a lot of flavour in there.
Yeah.
If you was to put that next to some of its macro competitors, you'd be able to pick that one out,
yes.
I think. And I think the packaging would put that on a supermarket shelf that you would happily pick up and give a go.
Yeah.
I think the whole package with this is very, very clever.
No, I think the whole thing's very clever. Pleased I picked the one up. I thought I picked up 2, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I picked up some of the juice box. I may have just said I'll have 1 lager and 3 juice box, please. Which wouldn't be a shock either. So I think it's a good one.
Yeah, very good. Nice start to the evening as well. So, let's cover some news. It's been a bit of a light news week this week, so we'll probably rattle through this. In conjunction with the Manchester Beer Week starting, so talking about Manchester again, a report was released stating that Manchester stakes its claim as the cask capital of Britain. Now, I think I remember back to last year where I think Sheffield claimed this previously.
Yeah, wasn't that based on some study by the University of Sheffield?
This one has been... This is on the back of a study into the beer sold in the city's pubs and bars. So the Manchester Beer Audit 2017 found 411 different cask ales on sale in venues throughout the City Council area, beating nearest rival Sheffield, which boasted 385 in its last survey, as well as Nottingham 334, York, Norwich, Derby and Leeds. A survey also confirmed that Manchester is leading other cities in kegged craft beers too, with 234 different beers on sale throughout the city. More than 80 independent breweries now operate across Greater Manchester. I mean, that's great news, isn't it?
I mean, that is great news. I mean, especially as a cask drinker, I think that's fantastic. I mean, I think I'd love to see people start picking the holes out of that, saying, well, how do you define the craft keg? At least with the cask, it's easily defined.
Yeah.
You know, there's sort of an unequivocal statement of fact. It's cask or it isn't. The other bit, I think they'll probably be open to debate. But I think that's brilliant. I mean, it shows the variety that Manchester has at the moment.
It does. I mean,
variety of brewers, what they're brewing, the dispense methods.
Yeah.
If you go to Manchester and you can't find something you like, it's probably more about you than what's being offered.
Well, I think again, not wishing to harp on about it, but the fact that they're doing a takeover this weekend with 7 Buxton cask lines in one bar.
You don't get 7.
No. Buxton only do cask for their tap house.
Yeah, but do they have 7 on usually?
No,
they don't have 7 on. Do they? I mean, I haven't been, but I'm sure when I've read about it, when you said it, they've actually gone out of their way to have 7 cask beers available for this, haven't they?
They have. So, and I'm going to go. I'm going to put some money on the table right now. One of them is going to be Spa, which is their.
That's their session, isn't it?
Yeah, 3 point something.
Nice and light.
Now, I'm guessing we're going to see Axe Edge on cask again because they do like to roll that out for special occasions.
Okay, so I'm going to see that on my Twitter newsfeed.
You're going to see lots of that. And then I imagine there'll probably be a Yellow Belly in there as well. That will be at least 3 of them.
Yeah. The other 4. I mean, that'd be really interesting to see. I mean,
God knows.
Obviously, you need to get a picture of all 7, but the fact that they're doing 7 shows that they know Manchester Beer Week gets a lot of traction, even just in year 2.
Yeah.
But also, Manchester still has a lot of people who do like good cask.
Good cask beer. Absolutely.
You know, and that study shows it. I mean, forgetting about the titles and stuff that goes with it, just those numbers to me sound pretty impressive.
Yeah. Well, the fact that I suppose
it's different ones. It's not. They're not saying that there's 200 pubs all selling 2 or 3 of the same beers. It's the number of different beers that are being rotated through.
Yeah. I find it quite interesting that London didn't appear on that list. Was that London wasn't surveyed because it's too big? Because I would have thought that there are more than 211 cask beers available in London at any one time.
I would have thought so as well. So I either we're going to be massively surprised and there isn't, or maybe they were excluded for the purposes of the survey.
Just because it's too big a bigger area. Yeah.
And you're just going to go, well, it's London. But all right, we can take London out. I think that's great for Manchester and great for the surrounding areas.
Absolutely, yeah. So moving on, the other piece of news this week is from Brooklyn Brewery, and this just once again shows that where we lead on things, others follow. So we recently did our opinions on films, where we paired beers with a classic film. Well, Brooklyn Brewery are doing the same. They've got a series of events called Brooklyn Nights, where they're pairing films with beers with their seasonal beers that are available.
Right.
So
onto the solicitor, cease and desist letter going out immediately to Brooklyn.
Absolutely. So the first one's on the 4th of July, and it's going to be the classic Jaws paired with their new seasonal brew Summer Ale. So if people are interested in that, it's taking place at the Prince Charles Cinema. I would guess just search that and see where you can get tickets from for that. But I mean, we had a lot of fun doing the.
We had a lot of fun doing it. I'm looking forward to doing it again. But
yeah.
I think it's. I've started to see that the Odeon now sell Becks and Magnas or Balmers as an offering. It's a start. And I think people, and you've got these other type of cinemas where you have like these more like armchairs and they're more like the what they used to like the electric palace type cinemas where they make it a bit more luxury and comfort and stuff. So yeah, it would seem that people are thinking well, maybe you can have more than nachos and fizzy coke.
Yeah.
During a showing. But no, we definitely had good fun doing the beers and Back to the Future. If you haven't listened to it yet, you know it's still there, ready to download. It's timeless, that film.
That is absolutely timeless, as is the podcast. And while we're promoting our own work, I do just want to say as well that if you've not checked out part 2 of the crossover that we did with River and Brews, make sure you check that out because you can hear. Just how drunk we got by the end of the evening.
I mean, this was a 2-part show we did, but on the same night. So we met up beforehand, we'd had a few beers, then we'd recorded our half of the show, which went out a couple of weeks ago, probably 3 or 4 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And then their part came out last week, and that was recorded at the same time. So I think we did 8 or 9 beers in total, pre-recording, recording, etc. But I'll be honest, I don't always listen back to our own shows because listening back to yourself is still a bit of a struggle at times. But I did listen back to all of that during the week last week, and it is enormous fun. And there are some good moments in there which I think people really enjoy. And you'll be, even if it's just a bit with Steve's face for the last beer, is worth it. You can't see the face, but trust me, you better picture it from what he's saying.
I don't think it's just my face. I think it's some of the comments that I actually made as well, because I was actually cringing when I was listening back to it. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I said that. Yeah. But yeah, it was. And
there's some decent music chosen on there as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And the music went well with.
Yeah.
Some of the music went.
It's good
with
fun.
Some of the beers.
And also give you if anyone is not familiar with the podcast, might give you a bit of food for thought about the whole music and beer thing.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. And make sure you check out all of their back catalogue as well, especially particularly the episode they did with Pete Brown, because this whole music and beer thing was Pete's originally one of Pete's ideas,
him, wasn't it?
So check that out because that really gives an insight into the whole science and background to it.
It's very interesting, especially that one.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the news. We've got another beer appeared on the table. What are we drinking now?
Okay, so this is another random one from the fridge that I've had for a couple of weeks. This is from And Union. It's their Easy Pale Ale. Comes in at 5.5%. I know nothing about And Union, and I know nothing about this beer.
I believe these are a South African company that their beer's brewed in Germany.
No, you see,
I think
the German bit must be true because that's the bit I did see on my Untapped, but I'm very unfamiliar with what they do.
I think I've maybe had one of their beers in the past.
Oh, I'll probably go through Untapped and then find those blue stars beside the whole load.
You've probably had this one.
Anyway, cheers.
Cheers.
It's an interesting flavour.
Oh, I'm not sure about that. Actually. Feels quite caramel.
I was getting some sort of spicy note somewhere in
there.
there. Some sort of herbal note in the background.
A little bit earthy.
Yeah.
Quality to it. It's like, is it an English pale ale they've tried to do here? Balanced, gently spiced, easy like Sunday morning pale ale.
Oh, I'm definitely getting the hint of the spice. That's definitely coming through.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you need it in a pale ale myself.
For me, a pale ale is one of those. It's a first beer of the night, or it's a go-to.
Quite gassy as well.
Yeah, very much so.
I'm definitely feeling it. But
Yeah.
we'll see how that progresses. That one.
I think so. We can enjoy that over the next few minutes anyway. So it's time to get into this.
Opinions, 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 opinions.
So this week's question that we asked was, would you consider taking beer to a dinner party with a simple yes or no? So what were the numbers that we had this week, mate?
Okay, well, it appears that our listeners, like ourselves, like a simple life, we had 492 votes, which I think is second or third highest in our
I think that's
number of votes.
second to the London one that we did, yeah.
So overwhelmingly, and perhaps partly because of the audience, 92% said yes, 8% said no.
Yeah, this one was very heavily weighed, wasn't
Definitely.
it? And I think that might have suffered slightly from a bias of those people that follow us and get involved in the polls that we do. Had that been maybe put to a wine drinking audience or a more generic audience, maybe it would have been a bit more of a balanced answer.
Yeah, I mean, I would be interested if I'd asked it at the wine and beer night I had the other week. It probably would have been a fairly even split between those who preferred the beer and those who preferred the wine, I imagine. I mean, our listeners tend to be beer related, aren't they?
Yeah.
Beer's their thing.
And it was that inspired this poll a little bit, wasn't it? Because we were speaking about that on last week's show. You did a beer and wine pairing evening at work, which sounded incredible, and I still can't believe you wouldn't let me come to it. I could have been your valet or something to have got in.
There's no shortcuts. You actually have to work for a bank.
Okay. So as always, and again, really grateful to everyone that gets involved in these. We had a lot of comments this week as well.
We did have a lot of comments. I was a bit worried when I saw the votes coming in, but maybe the comments wouldn't hang around that much.
Yeah,
but we did get a lot back, didn't we?
We did. So let's dig into some of these, and then as always we'll get to our views on it. So first up, Mark Johnson at Mark N Johnson. Yes, I'd consider it, but only when appropriate. Assuming I know the hosts well, I'll take a beverage that all could enjoy. It could be beer. And that was very much echoed by, again, a similar comment from Nate Southwood at NateDog27. Only if the stipulation was bring your own bottle. Otherwise, I'd take a gift as appropriate. If they like wine, that. If they like beer, that. So, straight up, people saying it's about knowing the audience that you're going to.
Yeah, I think so. I guess the only thing I thought about is when I read the question back and I voted myself, I was like, well, I wonder how many people actually have dinner parties these days. In the traditional...
Well, that came up, didn't it?
Yeah, in the traditional... My version of dinner parties probably in my head is either those rubbish things on Channel 4, Dine with me.
Oh yeah, come dine with me.
Which I've been unfortunate to see now and again. Or from like 70s sitcoms, where you have like very formal dinner parties and everyone does turn up obviously with a bottle of wine. I imagine that if you turned up with a bottle of wine with a screw top in the 80s, you probably would have got kicked out.
Yeah.
So, I was just curious about that myself. So what would you think? What's your version? Do you get invited to dinner parties? Or is it just a party?
No, I can't.
Or do people not invite you anywhere?
I generally don't get invited.
You don't get invited, do you?
No, people take one listen to this and like, we're not having him. he's not coming. No, I think, thinking back, it's been a few years since I've been to anything like that, but very much the ones that I've been to in the past, the done thing seems to be to take a bottle of wine, regardless of whether it's a good one or a bad one. I mean, I know in the past that I've taken bottles of wine that were brought to a party that I hosted that I never got around to drinking.
The ultimate recycling.
Yeah, that I thought, well, I'll take that to the next one, sort of thing. It's a strange one. And again, we had some people saying that, particularly about the wine side of things. So Peaches on Regalia at the Sonic Mole. Yes, because I can pick a good beer, but I am clueless about wine. And then we had somebody, Rich Calla at R Calla said, yes, but my first call might be something more wine-like, say a Flemish red or something like Wild Beer Co.'s Classic Modus.
Okay, I'd invite Rich to a dinner party if those were going to be the starting of his choices. I want to go back to one though, one which from Mike at Bites and Beers. It depends entirely on the menu. I usually look to pair a beer with each course with an extra one for pre and one for post dinner. I want to go to the dinner parties he's getting invited to, where he's getting the menu at the same time.
Yeah, that's nice of your host to actually give you a menu as well, isn't it?
So, but yeah, I like the idea that you'd start doing a bit. I can imagine him coming up with like a case now.
Yeah. Here we go. Here's the selection of beers.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, this one, this is a man after my own heart. Mark Bailey at Uproar 13. An on-sale bottle of wine from the supermarket, I'm afraid. All my regular dinner party hosts have a good selection of beers, so I default to wine. Unfortunately, that's how I buy wine. If I ever fancy wine, I literally go into the supermarket and I will see which bottle is half price. And if it's about the 5, 6, 7 quid mark, I'm like, well, that must be a decent bottle.
That was all right, 'cause it was 12, 13 or 14 originally.
Yeah. That's like, that must be a decent bottle for that price. So yeah, very much a man after my own heart there.
It's a strange one because, I mean, I'd say when I first was dating Michelle, we ran around to see her brother and sister-in-law. I took a 750 bottle of beer and a bottle of red wine. Okay,
so you gave both.
I brought both.
Options.
One because I knew that the beer thing about me had already been mentioned as well.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like, well, if I don't turn up with beer now, someone will go, but I thought you were into your beer. So I feel like I'm going to bring a beer. But I do like my wine anyway, and I've usually got some wine tucked away at home for occasions, either for me to drink or to take somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I have to admit, I have taken both to dinner parties or occasions before.
Well, there was lots of people saying about yes, but it would have to be a 750ml bottle, and in that same vein,
yeah, no one suggested a 4-pack, did they?
No. So we're going to take a 4-pack of Indy Lager and share those out. But and also a lot of people suggesting Impy Stouts as well, which I know you found quite surprising.
I did, because unless you know that someone's really going to enjoy it, then once that 750 is open, you can say, well, okay, well, there's more left for me. But it's a bit, if you're not sure about what sort someone's wine choice is, you might think, white's quite safe. I can chill a white. It hides a few sins, so it can still be used. Whereas if they've got a particular type of red they like, so I don't know, say a Pinot Noir, and you turn up with something which is the opposite end of the spectrum to that, say a big Rioja, they might go, that's not really my kind of red. I think with an Impy Stout, don't get me wrong, someone turned up at my door with a 750ml Impy Stout, come on in. But I think it's a very bold choice. It's a lovely choice, but I think it could be potentially quite bold.
It could, and I know there are a few people that it's taken them a while to get to Impy Stouts in their beer journey as well. So
not Michelle, she got there in about 2 weeks.
One friend of the show, Janice Dunn at Mrs. Beer Snob, used to really struggle with Impy Stouts, and now she loves them. So it wouldn't have been her first choice. So could you imagine rocking up with, say, one of the beers that you served at the beer and wine in the Bourbon County? 14.5%?
Yeah, Wayne would have loved me.
Yeah, you've got this massive beer that you're suddenly expecting people to.
I just think it's quite a bold one. I think you need to know who you're rocking up with. I mean, if it's say a dinner party and there's say about 20 people, and you're all only going to have like the equivalent of an after dinner liqueur.
Yeah. Then it might work. Yeah. And that's what Chris Elston at Elston's Beer Blog said. Last dinner party he went to, he took a 750ml bottle of Impy Stout, which ended up coming home with me fulls. I'd say for the win there, mate. If you've taken it home with you again, then you get to enjoy it.
Yeah, I would say that's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. And then I suppose just a couple more to finish with in terms of the comments. So James at Gammon Baron, it's the only circle I fraternise with, and then proceeded to give us a list of how he would serve beer. So IPA pals before, matching beers during, then some palate cleansers, Impies with the dessert. I'm still struggling with that one after last week. Dessert.
Yeah, dessert.
Not desert. And then Belgians with cheese.
Yeah, that's
Would you
quite
have done
interesting
that?
one. I can see where he's going because of the various types of very funky flavours you can get with some of the Belgian beers.
Yeah.
But you can also get some really deep flavours with some of those triples and their quads, couldn't you? I mean, you can imagine a couple of the big quads having some lovely rich cheese with those.
I would go with a quad, but I'm very much a dark beer and cheese.
I could see that. You could say some of the lighter flavoured cheeses, maybe not say your mature cheddars and things like that, or something too out there with some of the lighter Belgian beers. When I say lighter in colour, maybe rather than ABV.
Yeah.
I quite like that. I want to. So, James, when's your next dinner party?
Yeah, we're coming.
Yeah, we're coming.
And we'll bring beer.
We'll bring beer. Yeah, so we'll bring cheese as well.
And then I think probably the last one we'll do on this is an interesting one. So Tom Barnard at Tom J Barnard. Would you go to one where it was an issue if you bought beer?
Would you go to one where it was an issue for you? Well, as in people might think it's a bit odd.
Yeah. Would you go to a dinner party where people thought it was strange if you suddenly rocked up with beer?
I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I guess it comes back to what I was saying earlier. I mean, if you rocked up in the 80s and maybe 90s, early 90s with a bottle of white wine with a screw top, you'd probably automatically be looked down upon because it didn't have a cork. That sort of snobbery has disappeared from a lot of the wine world anyway. So you've now got very good wines which you can have a screw top on. If you turned up with a beer, I think it goes back to the thing, but if I didn't turn up with a beer properly, people would find it odd because people get beer in now for when I turn up because they know that I like beer. And sometimes I'm better off then bringing my beer anyway because their beer choices may not be the ones I was hoping for. They may be the ones I expect.
Yeah.
But I would still go because I am a big fan of most versions of alcohol anyway. And if it's a dinner party, it also means they're feeding me.
So it ticks all the boxes.
It does tick all of my boxes. So, no, it wouldn't be an issue for me. I think that most of the people I associate with, or even if they only know of, would probably expect a beer to feature at some point anyway, even if I turned up with it myself. What about you?
I probably the same actually. I mean, I'm to be fair, I'm quite partial to a drop of red wine, and it's quite dangerous sometimes when I get on the old red if I'm at a dinner party. But I would happily take along some beers, and again, probably lending itself to some of the comments that people made. If I'm going to assume if I've been invited to a dinner party, I know the people, so I would be able to probably judge what beers they're going to enjoy. And what style of beer I need to bring for them to enjoy. Whether it's a case of me rocking up and saying, well, actually, no, we're going to have this with dinner, not the wine, or not whatever you've chosen to serve.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'd certainly take something that I would want them to experience.
Yeah, I think that's where I am. I'd say, it's their party, so it's up to them what goes with what. But I might say, well, look, fancy trying this, whether it be before or after. I might do as a do you fancy opening this before we crack open something else before the food?
So on the slight flip side to this, if you was hosting a dinner party, would you choose to serve beer as the drink of choice?
If I was hosting, I would probably lead with beer, but I would have wine available.
Okay.
Because again, I don't mind wine, and I know that there are people who I do know. I don't know how they're still in my life. Who aren't all beer people, so I would lead with beer.
So if any of them are listening to this now, you're on a very short list at the moment,
exactly,
and you're soon going to be written out of Martin's life.
Yeah, if other people increase their beer offerings, I would say that I would always hope not to exclude anyway.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, that was an interesting one this week. That just kind of came out of that discussion from last week
on the beer and wine.
And how people thought about it. Got any more thoughts on the beer?
Well, I've been sipping it while we've been talking, and I think as it's warmed up a little bit, that little bit of spicy hit I was getting seems to have tailed off a little bit. I'll be honest, there's nothing extraordinary about it. I think there's a lot of. I think the packaging has probably done it no harm. Very plain orange can, just with just a Sunday pale ale on the front of it. But I wouldn't be looking for it again. This beer wouldn't make me look out for the other beers.
I'm not a fan. I'm going to put that out there straight away. I'm not really enjoying it. The flavours aren't really doing it for me. I don't like the packaging on it. I think I'm just struggling with it, to be honest with you.
I think I'm vaguely in my head there may have been an And Union bottle in one of my beer bods cases once. So I'd be interested to know what one that one.
I've definitely had a couple of their bottles before.
Because they were quite tall bottles, weren't they?
Yeah, and very distinctive labelling.
Yeah,
as well.
But would this make me think, oh, I'll try another one of something else? No. Whereas the earlier beer, even if I didn't know Fourpure, I'd go, yeah, I might see what else they've got.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's a little way to go with that particular beer. What was it you said? A South African brewery who brews in Germany.
I'm sure And Union are South African, but I'm sure they're all the brewing's done by contract in Germany.
Oh, it does have brewed in Bavaria by Brewers and Union in Munich, imported to South Africa.
Oh, maybe I've got it the other way around then.
But there is some connection then.
Yeah, I'm just looking them up on Untapped. So they're listed as Munich. It would appear I've had this beer before.
You've actually had this beer, so come on, tell me and the listeners what you thought of it before then.
Well, it only got a 3.
Okay.
The last time I checked it in, which was back in 2014, and you're going to have to bear with me on this because it was when I used to do reviews of beers on Instagram and then put a link to that review
while you're looking,
in my Untapped feed, which obviously you can't click on links in your Untapped feed. So
I'll crack open the next beer then.
Yeah. You talk about the next beer while I am playing my phone.
So we've got the Belching Beaver Brewery Peanut Butter Milk Stout, which comes in at 5.3%. Again, I think I picked this up at one of the local bottle shops, Lickfish down in Shenfield, for no other reason than I thought, well, I haven't tried it, so let's see what it's like. Put a picture on Twitter today, and I had a few people saying they weren't that fussed about it, so be interested to see what we think about it. Don't know if you've tried this one, have you?
I haven't tried this one. No, I'm still looking at beers because I'm not sure whether this is the one I've had now. What's this beer actually called? Is it Sunday Pow?
Sunday Pow.
Yes, right. Okay, I have had this then, and this is what I said about it in 2014. American influence is clear in the flavour profile. There's that toffee pine flavour that comes through with a soft finish with hardly any bitterness. I nailed that 3 years ago. It hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed, and I wouldn't be giving it over a 3.
No,
if I'm being honest.
And that was from the bottle that I had before.
Okay, well they haven't changed it for the can then.
No, clearly not.
So anyway, cheers.
Cheers. Oh, you get the peanuts straight away on the nose.
You do get the peanuts straight away on the nose. And you get peanuts in the flavour.
It's like drinking Reese's
peanut cups.
Yeah.
I did wonder if it might be like that because it's a very the Reese's peanut butter cups are it's almost like it's a very artificial peanut flavour, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, obviously, straight away you're going to make comparisons to Yellow Belly, I think here.
Yes.
And I think that the difference being here is that this is all peanut butter up front.
Yes.
Whereas, and it's quite thin.
It's quite thin.
As well.
It's half the ABV, I suppose.
Yeah.
They're 5.3.
I was going to say, you compare it to Yellow Belly, it's a lot thicker on the mouthfeel, and the peanut butter's more subtle in the background.
Yeah, that whole Snickers feel comes
Yeah.
through as you start going through it in your mouth, doesn't it? Whereas this one is peanut on the nose, peanut on the flavour straight away.
Yeah, it's all there, isn't it? This literally does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
Getting hardly any of the the sweetness from the milk stout, because I think that's just being washed away by the
I think you probably.
by the
I
peanut
think
butter
we might start to get that sort of lactose sweet as
as it
carry on,
warms a little.
As it warms a little.
Okay, well, while we're letting it warm a little, let's take some feedback from our listeners.
Let us know, write it down. Let us know, write it down. Let us know your thoughts and bitter and lingerness. Write it down.
So this week, and I love that this happened as well. That following on from last week's show, Uprising Brewery got in touch. They obviously listened to the show that we did last week, featuring one of their beers from Wetherspoons, and they said, "Hey guys, we agree." I'm guessing with what we said about their beers. They're doing trials with can conditioning to keep the beer even fresher. They feel the filter has stripped some of the flavours out. So
yeah, because I think I described it last week, if I can remember, is that warehouse, American warehouse aged feel to it, wasn't it? And we were getting more of the sweet caramel toffee side of it when it's been around a little while too long, rather than those big, fresh, upfront hoppy flavours and aroma. So yeah, I was impressed when they came back to us. I mean, it does go to show, but just because you can put beer in a can, there's still people, there's varying degrees of how good it is for people.
Yeah.
And how easy it is to do it. And also, presumably, the type of beer you make. Is it suited to the can? I mean, must be a lot of different things that they have to try to find out.
Absolutely, but like I said, I think it's great that they got in touch, and we're really grateful for them getting in touch as well, and talking to us about it and saying, look, we're trying stuff and it might not be where we want it to be right now, but we're still working on it.
Yeah, so I'm glad they didn't say, we think they're talking bollocks, guys.
Yeah, which is always more of a challenge when you get that sort of...
Yeah, we don't read those out.
No, they get binned straight away. So number one fan Miles Lambert at Miles Lambert's been in touch again about last week's show. Great show, lads. Impossible to avoid just how much of an impact spoons have had on pubs in the UK. So what do you think to that one?
I think he's right. I think we sort of, if we didn't say it overtly during the show, I think there was a few times where we sort of hinted at that, went down that road. And my mantra about spoons is no problem with spoons. I think they've changed a lot of the beer scene in pubs, whether that be meal deals, varieties of beers. Yes, you can ask about whether there's any dubious practices with driving down prices, but that conversation could go against the whole multitude of the service and retail sector. But I wouldn't want every pub to be a spoons.
No. Which we covered off last week.
Yeah.
And if you haven't heard last week's show yet, then shame on you.
Yeah, because I spent a lot of time getting to that pub.
But go back and listen to it.
It's always nice to hear from Miles.
Yeah, absolutely. Next one, Johnny Robbins at Johnny R Robbins at Beer O'Clock Show. Could you please say the owl drinks an owl in next week's show? No. Moving on. This was one from you that
came from Cole.
Yeah,
KL Gunner.
He emailed you a link to something.
Yeah, a story about rate beer. Now, obviously, listeners may remember that rate beer's come up a few times recently, namely because of the ABI investment into rate beer, and there was a lot of chatter on social media, and we had a brief discussion about it. Why were they buying into it? What was the rationale behind it?
Yeah.
I mean, ABI aren't known for their charitable donations in the beer world. Now, I'm sure they do some outside of the beer world, but within the beer world. So what are they trying to get out of it? And there was lots of speculation about that. But an interesting story, and whether it's directly related or not, I don't know. But it's probably bad timing that it's come out, and it was basically to do with the fact that the actual ratings for a brewery appeared to not be working quite the way it was intended. So if I remember correctly, I would take the obvious example, ABI's brewery rating in the last 6 to 9 months went up.
Has increased significantly, yeah.
And one would assume that a lot of rate beer aficionados probably aren't massive ABI beer drinkers, or at least not knowingly, and if they are, a lot of the time probably won't be rating them that highly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's only so much Goose Island Bourbon County Stout you can rate that highly all the time. What Rate Beer said was basically they thanked the journalists for bringing it to their attention, and it would appear that the algorithm wasn't working correctly. A bit strange, but it hadn't been noticed over a long period of time.
Yeah.
But the brewery ratings had gone up. I mean, that was the gist of it, wasn't it?
Yeah. But basically, yeah, I mean, you questioned the timing of it, maybe being unfortunate timing. I would say possibly just good journalism in terms of...
Yeah, sorry, I mean, unfortunate for Rate Beer.
Yeah, the investigation that they've gone through, because I read it, and the feel that I got from this piece was that they're essentially saying that Rate Beer have been fixing the brewery scores.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's actually got the example of where ABI's score was before and now.
Yeah. I mean, there's too much of this article to go into.
We'll put the link into the show notes.
Absolutely. Have a read through it.
It's a decent piece of work.
Yeah, and let us know what you think about this one, because I think this Rate Beer thing, I think, is just going to bubble and bubble for a few months yet.
Well, I'm just wondering, because we had that bit where you said the story about where some of the breweries have now started to basically scramble their own descriptions, scramble their beer names. You almost feel like that if Rate Beer don't get a hold of this, it's just going to eat itself.
Possibly.
And you'd be wondering, what did ABI get out of it in the end?
Yeah. Well, it would, as we said last week. Was it last week or the week before? It would seem as though they've already got what they needed out of it, because they're producing beers for particular markets at particular breweries.
Yeah. That has been suggested more than once recently.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be interesting to see what other beers start to come out from the ABI related breweries and where they're brewing them.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. Check out the link to that in the show notes and have a read and let us know what you think. And then finally, under Bitter and Lingonist this week, regular contributor Paul at UNRCD once again asking us a question. With brewery collaborations coming out so often nowadays, do you guys still get excited by them? And what would your dream collab be?
Dream collab, we're still talking about beer here, aren't we? So I'll keep it clean. But to go back to the first one, the brewery collaboration. You guys did this before, didn't you? In the previous Guys the Beer O'Clock show, one of the live ones, didn't you?
It was one of the live shows that we did at Hot Burns and Black. Where we spoke about collaborations, and we were asking, are we bored with them yet?
And I think that what came out of that was also that we found that sometimes, and this was probably a year and a half ago now, we felt there was a lot more style than substance with regard to some of the
them were vanity
collaborations.
Projects, and nothing more.
Now, obviously, for me last year, my beer of the year was Freeze Company, which was a freeway collab with Magic Rock, Cloudwater, JW Lee's, and I thought that was a fantastic beer. I think with collaborations, what you can get, you can get the best of all the worlds who are involved.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, what you sometimes get is the worst, and I'm going to link it to last week's show. When Spoons do their collaboration beers, they tend to be pretty dire, because what you tend to get is you get what seems to be some very good brewers both in the UK and typically from the US, who seem to bring the worst that they do and put it into a collaboration beer rather than the best of what they do.
Yeah.
I find that the collaboration beers at Spoons are generally best avoided, in my experience on the car section anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think that you get some really good collaboration beers these days. And what I did find fascinating was that Cloudwater have carried on using the JW Lee's yeast strain, haven't they?
Yes, in other beers as well.
So there was obviously something they got from that, but they thought, hold on a second, JW Lee's there may be a big regional brewer, but they've been doing this a long time. There must be something about this.
Yeah.
And it definitely, in the Freeze Company it worked. So I think that if you can get the best of the best, I say they carry on. I think it's great for publicity. Brewers probably love it. I mean, they get to talk with like-minded people, maybe using different equipment. It might be a day out, a week out, or if they're travelling to another country. I reckon they probably have great fun doing it.
So what would your dream collab be now? Can you think of two breweries that you would love to see collab?
I don't know. I mean, someone in Adams would always work for me.
You're halfway there with my dream collab.
But I don't know who it'd be. So while I'm thinking about it, who would yours be?
Buxton. I'd love to see a collab between Buxton and Adnams.
Buxton and Adams. Oh, that'd be a good one.
Yeah.
See, did Magic Rock do one with? Was that the Herbalist that they
Magic
did?
Rock did one with Adnams, yeah.
Yeah. See, I wasn't that fussed about that.
No, I wasn't. But
whereas I rate both breweries.
yeah.
Which is a bit of a shame. A dream collab. I'll think about it. See if I can come up with an answer before the end of the show.
Okay. Well, while you're coming up with an answer, you can also share where the great big box of nothing is going this week.
It's going this week. Right. Okay. Well, in reverse order. So we do have a runner-up, and the runner-up comes from Million Bevs with a free bean stout float. So free bean stout from Lervig. And he's obviously added a bit of ice cream to that one.
Nice.
That looks like it's on a hot day, which we've had a few of them recently.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, yeah, that's probably quite tasty, that. Because we loved that free bean stout when we had it at the bottle share a few months ago.
I didn't.
Weren't you there for that?
No.
Or didn't you enjoy it?
I don't. It's got tonka beans in it, which gives that marzipan flavour.
Oh, I don't like marzipan. I don't remember that.
That I don't like.
Oh, okay. But anyway, the winner is from Mark The Beer Trawler in Dublin, with a picture of O'Hara's 51st State IPA behind, with Pac-Man playing in the background, which is reflected through the beer.
Oh, that's so good. I love the reflection on the beer.
And you got a bit of reflection on the table as well.
Yeah.
So,
excellent.
Obviously, they'll both be shared, and you'll see them before the show goes out. If you haven't, please look them up, because especially the Pac-Man one, that really grabbed me. Pac-Man's basically playing in a glass of beer, which I think is brilliant.
So good. So yeah, so the box staying in Ireland again then.
The box it's made its way there a few times this year, and it's still staying over there.
It has. It's we need to wrestle that one back.
We need to wrestle it back. It's more evidence of Brexit, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Even the box is trying to get away.
I know. And if you want to have a go at trying to wrestle that box back and bringing it back over to the UK, put a picture on Instagram, use the hashtag Cheers Guys, and if it's the one that catches Martin's eye next week, you'll be getting the empty box of nothing delivered to your door.
Exactly.
So back to the beer, because we are almost done here this evening. What are our thoughts here?
I'm enjoying it. I think it's nice to have a adventurous stout like this, which doesn't have to be over 10%. I mean, typically these kind of stouts tend to be the higher end of the scale, don't they? When they want to do these more exotic, sweet flavours, etc. I mean, that free bean stout I just had in one of the pictures, that's up towards getting towards the double figures, if I remember correctly. At 5.3%, I think there's lots going on.
It's almost like a sessionable version, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could probably only do a few in one sitting.
I think it's
because of the sweetness.
Sickly. Yeah,
because it has got that artificial peanut butter flavour to it, like I said, the Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yeah, it is very sweet. I mean, it's very sweet. The flavours are all there, but it has got that sweet finish to it, and that sweetness is getting a little bit sticky in the mouth as well.
Yeah.
So I'd
especially if
agree
it's started to warm up too much as well.
Yeah.
But I think for 5.3%, and it doesn't pretend. What it says, it does.
Absolutely, yeah. Does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
So we're almost there this week. If you want to get involved in the show in any way, shape or form, either talking about what we've spoken about this week, asking us random questions, or getting involved in what we're going to be talking about next week, just use the hashtag Hopinions, and we will find your views and we will share them on the show. We are still running the listener survey. There is a link to that in the show notes. We're still really grateful for everybody that's completed that so far. We do still need people to complete that. It's helping us to shape what the show is going to look like moving forwards. And what's coming up next week, mate?
Well, next week we're out on the road again, aren't we?
We are, but the whole show is going to be kind of down to you.
Yeah, basically we're going to do a bit of a go-to beers show. So largely based on a couple of posts I did recently about my own personal go-to beers, which we've got quite a lot of engagement online, Twitter with that, with a lot of people who read the blog but also listen to the show. So we thought we're going to expand it a little bit. I don't know if we've quite got the survey wording done yet, the opinions poll.
No,
we'll work on that.
Yeah.
We'll try and keep it simple as ever and see how it goes. So yeah, we're out on the road and we've got a guest coming in as well.
Okay, so who's joining us next week?
A guy called John West, who's 1/3 of the Doctor Who I'll Explain Later podcast. I'll let him say a bit more about what he does on that. But I've met him before, him and the guys who do the podcast, and he's definitely very much into his beers as well. So it should make for some interesting content.
And he knows that possibly he's carrying the show.
I haven't quite told him that yet.
Does he listen to the show?
I don't know actually. Maybe you should.
We'll find out next Monday.
We'll just throw in a few questions, can't we, and see if he listens to the show at all.
Absolutely. Okay, well, that sounds like it's going to be fun. Because, like you say, your that little blog did get quite a lot of traction, so it will be good to talk about that.
It was quite a good volume of comments.
Yeah.
People coming back about some of my go-to beers and then suggesting about their go-to beers, or they don't really have go-to beers these days. So I think it could make for some interesting discussion.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I think that's about it, mate, for this week. So we're going to finish off this peanut butter milk stout.
Yeah.
And we'll be back next week.
Okay. And I haven't thought my collaboration, so you'll have to wait for that.
Okay, yeah. Watch this space.
Yeah.
Cheers.